Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my 3-part series on my perspective on Luke Skywalker, the original trilogy. Last episode, we covered A New Hope and Luke's journey from being pretty much a nobody to being the hero of the rebellion. This is going to be more of a humbling experience for our hero character, with Empire being the first movie where the bad guys won. At least the first movie I seen at the time where the bad guys won. And where Luke and the Rebel Alliance both get humbled. So we start out with Luke on a Tauntaun investigating a meteorite that hit near him. And shortly thereafter gets attacked by a Wampa, killing the Tauntaun and dragging Luke to a cave where he is suspended upside down. Now, the version I saw, there was no Wampa eating. You just hear him in the background. This is also the first time we get to see Luke use the Force on an inanimate object. Took him a bit, but he finally got it after he released his feelings, felt the Force, and got it to his hand. Ignited it, sliced off the Wampa's arm just in time to escape the cave, shortly thereafter collapsing in the snowstorm on Hoth. Now, before he goes unconscious, he is greeted with the apparition of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who instructs him to go to Dagobah to find Yoda, the Jedi Master that instructed him. Now, Han ends up finding Luke and rescuing him, using his dead Tauntaun, using Luke's lightsaber to slice open a gash in the Tauntaun's belly and putting Luke in, kept Luke warm enough to survive through the night into the morning. Now in the morning, Rogue 2 came and rescued them, took him back to Echo Base, where Luke rehabilitated and back to the tank. After fully recovering, he is greeted with Han, Chewie, Leia, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Now, after a bit of pretty funny quips, Leia decides to kiss Luke in order to make Han jealous. Now, as we can see by Luke's expression, it goes to his head. But I believe there was also an indirect response to that. I think that gave him the strength he needed to fight the Empire that day, which was imminent at this point. So Luke dons the pilot uniform once again, gets in a snowspeeder, where he's greeted by Dak Ralter, which tells him that he feels like he can take on the Empire all by himself, and then Luke responds by saying, "I know what you mean." The Battle of Hoth begins, and this is where we get to see Luke's leadership skills put to the test. We see him come up with the idea of using the gunner station's tow cables to wrap around the legs of the AT-ATs to bring them down. Now, before Luke can actually implement this idea himself, Dak has a problem with his gunner station. It's a malfunction. So Luke asked Wedge to take over and do it. And Wedge does, and it works. Now, it wasn't long after this where the rebels started losing and the Empire was advancing. Luke ends up getting shot down right after Dak gets shot and killed. Crashing at the feet of an AT-AT, Luke barely has enough time to escape before the foot of the AT-AT crushes the snowspeeder and Dak's body. Luke was able to retrieve an explosive and a grapple gun before exiting. And it was these two items that he used to be able to take down the AT-AT on his own, which is still to this day a really badass scene. I still love it. So he takes the grapple gun, shoots it to the bottom of the AT-AT, uses his lightsaber, slices open the door, throws the explosive in, detaches the cable, he falls to the ground, the AT-AT blows up in a spectacular fashion. Even the head just blows clean off, falls over, and he did this on foot. Still amazing to this day. Now, shortly after the rebels' defeat and the evacuation of the rebels from Hoth, Luke uses his X-Wing and along with R2 make their way to Dagobah. And this is where we meet Master Yoda, whom messes with Luke from the very get-go because he's testing Luke. Testing his patience and his intelligence as well to try and see if Luke can figure out who he really is. Well, Luke ends up failing on all counts. And after a bit of back and forth, Luke finds out that it's Yoda. Yoda takes him to his hut, where he finds out how much more impatient a Skywalker really can be. Because we all know Yoda knew his father, Anakin, how impatient he was. And at first, Yoda was reluctant to train him because he was too old, too impatient. But then we hear from Obi-Wan, who said he will learn patience. It took a little bit, but Yoda finally agreed, and then the real training began. Now, I want to highlight one of the training sessions, the failure in the cave. Something I didn't quite understand as a kid until I got older. So at the beginning of this scene, Luke says he feels cold. And then there's the cave. He started to put his gun belt on, and Yoda says, "Your weapons, you will not need them." But he puts them on anyway. And he asks what's in there. Only what you take with you. Now this, I'm not sure if it was just meant for interpretation or what have you, but your weapons, you will not need them. I take that as being a Jedi, you don't need weapons to resolve a conflict. That's that part. The other part is only what you take with you. Your emotional, mental, and maybe physical baggage as well. What was going on in Luke's head at that time is what he was taking with him. He was impatient. He was in a hurry to fulfill his destiny, not knowing why at the time. Because he didn't know the truth about his father at this point. So he was doing all this for the wrong reasons. So the failure in the cave could be summed down to him just not completely doing this for the wrong reason. So he enters the cave, he sees Vader, who he thinks is Vader, immediately ignites his lightsaber. The faux Vader ignites his, and it's a brief little skirmish, if you want to call it that, and Luke immediately cuts his head off, which I think is another attribute to the failure. Luke went in for the kill shot, and a Jedi does not do that. They do not go for the kill. So that could be also a reason why he failed in the cave, amongst other things. He's truly not ready yet, but again, like in the last video that I said, the Force has a strange way of making things work, a certain way. So after this, we get to the part where the X-Wing falls deeper into the swamp. And then Luke is just afraid that he won't be able to leave now. And then Yoda tries to tell him that size matters not when using the Force. Then Luke says he'll try, and then Yoda says, "Do or do not. There is no try." And Luke starts to succeed. He starts lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp, and then R2 starts beeping. And back when I was a kid, I thought R2 was the reason why Luke was failing. I don't know if that's really the case or not. The distraction, it very well could be Luke was distracted. But after it sank back in the swamp, Luke just gave up. He was exhausted. And then we see Yoda in true Jedi Master fashion, without exerting any amount of any evidence that it was taking a toll on him whatsoever, lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp effortlessly and lands it on the bank. And in a few simple words, we find out why Luke failed in the first place. I don't believe it. And Yoda says, and that is why you failed. This whole time, Luke was not believing in himself, in the Force, or any of it, and that is why he was failing. And now, since he got to see it for himself that Yoda did it, he actually got to see it, now he can start believing. Now, shortly after this, Luke has a vision that Han, Leia, and Chewie are in trouble in a city of the clouds, which we all know is Bespin, the Cloud City. So Luke is eager to leave his training to, well, eager is probably the wrong word to use. He's sacrificing his training to go save his friends, knowing full well he's not ready to face whatever's waiting for him, but he has to save his friends. This is the compassionate part of Luke that I love so much, and I can relate to so much, is that sacrificing your own self-interests in order to save someone else. That is the Luke Skywalker character from beginning to end. Pretty much sums him up right there. Even after Obi-Wan and Yoda warned him that cutting the training off now could have great consequences. And it seems like Luke is doing this for the wrong reasons, but he's really not. He's willing to sacrifice himself if it comes down to it to save them. And he promises he will return to complete his training. So he leaves, goes to Bespin, has a short little tussle with Boba Fett, kind of. Leia warns him that it's a trap. Then he eventually finds his way to the carbonite chamber, where Vader is waiting for him. It was a trap after all. Now this duel is an awesome duel, not just because of the lightsaber work or anything. It's the psychology behind it. The moves that Vader uses against Luke, dominating him, showing him the power of the dark side, and just pummeling Luke. Luke had no chance in this fight because he was fighting Vader. It's not like the next movie when they fight. It's a completely different fight, and I'll cover that in the next movie. But in this fight, Vader's all about domination, all about stripping down Luke's will and making him desperate. Because we all know Vader wants Luke to join him on the dark side to destroy the Emperor. So we get to the end of the duel, Well, Vader cuts off Luke's hand. Then we get to the reveal. The reveal of reveals. And to this day, I still love watching people's reactions online to this reveal, because my reaction at 9 years old was nothing short of just amazing, because I didn't see it coming at 9 at all. That Vader is Luke's father. That Vader used to be Anakin Skywalker. And it's when we find out that he's not just machine in there, there is man in there too. Now it's at this point where we get to see a little sliver of Anakin pop out, because he refuses to kill his son, because he wants his son to join him on the dark side and rule the galaxy as father and son. Luke would not have it. I can't imagine what Luke was going through at this point. Being told pretty much all your life that your father was a navigator on a spice freighter in order to run into Ben Kenobi, a hermit on Tatooine, to tell you that no, your father's Anakin Skywalker. He was a Jedi who I fought alongside in the Clone Wars. And now finding out that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. Not a separate entity that Obi-Wan trained, but one and the same. I probably would have handled it just like Luke did. I wouldn't want to believe it. I think that would be pretty much everyone's reaction, that, you being the kind of hero in the story, but heroes don't see themselves as heroes. I don't think for one second Luke saw himself as a hero. But him being compassionate, wanting to save people, and being the son of someone who's evil and part of an empire and just wants to ruin people's lives, yes, that's very, very hard to believe. So Luke, being desperate at the time and wanting to get away from Vader, just let himself fall. Now, in that moment, I don't know if he was trying to kill himself or just get away. I'm not really sure. I like to think he was just trying to get away, because I don't think he's the type of person who would try to kill himself. So that's what I go with. And then he is rescued by Leia and Lando in the Falcon. And it's during this time where Vader is still contacting Luke, and Luke is very conflicted right now. Then he starts to come to terms with the truth, and then starts asking Obi-Wan, why didn't you tell me? And then we end the film in a medical frigate overlooking another galaxy as the Falcon disappears into said galaxy, with Luke, Leia, C-3PO, and R2. It's a very somber ending. It's an ending where you feel the weight of the loss and cannot wait for the next film to conclude it all. Now, I'm hoping that this one was a bit better than the last one. I'm trying to improve these as I go with the time that I have, and I'm hoping everybody's enjoying this format. I was trying not to go this route because there were so many other people on YouTube doing this, but I had some pointers from a few friends of mine who watch YouTube videos, and they're like, you know what, just go ahead and do it. Do what you want to do. So that's what I'm doing. I just want to make content that people enjoy, but I want to make content that I enjoy too. So there's a line I'm not going to cross. If I don't like doing it, I'm just not going to do it. So if someone doesn't like it, that's fine. You don't have to like it. There's no offense taken. You can go watch someone else's that's better than mine. I'm totally fine with that. So if you still here at this point, I really appreciate watching this, and I will continue this in Return of the Jedi. I'll see you all then. May the Force be with you.